It's a bit of a quiet weekend in crypto, and I was looking on this new part of YouTube Studio where you can see what kind of breakout videos there are. And it shows videos that are getting good views compared to what the creators normally get. And I clicked it, and it is filled with crypto crash content. A lot of people turning bearish just this last week when we were, going through some pain in the crypto market. And a lot of people I've been noticing on crypto Twitter have been turning bearish, not just retail investors, but also influencers, people that have a large audience that are looked to for advice and for thinking clearly about whether to buy or sell or dollar cost average, that kind of stuff. So I noticed that there are just so many people turning bearish right now, and I think there's a pretty big lie going on right now. I think a lot of people are misunderstanding what's happening in crypto. And I could be wrong, right? I'm not sitting here saying we're going to go up to $500,000 and everyone that thinks that there's a possibility that we're going to go down is stupid. No, there's a very real possibility that we could go down another 20, 30, 40, 50%. However, there are a lot of people that think that the risk reward is not worth it right now. They think that we're bound to go lower, right? There's no chance that we go higher. But that's not true. Actually, I just asked ChatGPT as a unbiased third party to go through some bullish catalysts for crypto. Actually, what I said was, what are 5 catalysts that are bullish for Bitcoin's price? Factors don't have to be directly correlated to Bitcoin. For example, I don't want you to say, when a lot of people buy Bitcoin, that's bullish. No, macro factors are what I'm looking for. And I'll tell you, it's going to surprise some people, what it said. So I want to go through that, tell you what you should know today ahead of the week, because there are a couple big events happening this week, and what I'm doing. If you don't mind, hit subscribe so you can see future videos just like this one. Also, if you want to trade crypto, check out BYDeFi. Now's a great time to start trading because you can still get in on this sign up and trade bonus. So you can get up to $13,000 just for trading on the platform, just like you would trade on any platform. But unlike other platforms that other trading websites that allow you to get this bonus and you have a very short period of time and then it goes away forever. These campaigns that we run are for everyone that's ever signed up under my link. So it's not like you have to, sign up for this platform and put all the money that you want to trade on right away, even if you haven't tested it out. No, you can test out the platform, see if you like it. And we're constantly running these promotions. So we just ran one last month. People got paid, I think, around $30,000, our community. And this goes right into your account here. And then, you can continue to do that. You can continue stacking this free money. There's also a deposit event going on right now. So it's like double event right now. Now, obviously, crypto has been a bit red over the last week or so. I will say, though, it's looking a little bit green right now. Let's see if CoinMarketCap, it's showing we're up like 2.5% in the last 24 hours on Bitcoin, 3% on Ethereum. Everything's starting to lighten up a little bit. It might be because there's some good news or some, I'd say, positive trade talk. Trump saying that he doesn't think we're going to have massive tariffs on China and that they can work out a deal. Every other day we get different news. So I am not paying attention to it too much because it just is back and forth. And I think it will work itself out. I've been saying that for a while. But obviously Bitcoin's been doing pretty poorly for the last week or so. Keep in mind though, 10 days ago we were hitting all-time highs, which is why I think it's so funny because there's so many people that are bearish on Bitcoin right now because it's fallen down 25% or 20%, not even 25%. It's down 15% from the high right now. And it's just crazy to see so many people flip bearish. I mean, this has happened before, to be clear. Every time we've seen a big dip, we've actually fallen down more than this a handful of times during the bull market, 30% several times, 35%, and we continue moving to all-time highs. But it seems like even more people are bearish than usual, and I think that's because we've already been through a lot of the bull market. This is typically the quarter where we top out, and people are a little bit scared, right? That we might not ever go back to new all-time highs again, or that we won't do it for several years. I will say, there's a chance that we go through a bear market right now, right? We've done really well. Bitcoin's up a lot. There hasn't been this crazy alt season, but all in all, it's been, if you were in Bitcoin, it's been a good bull market. However, I think we have to remember that just because it's the fourth quarter doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to go down 70% into a bear market, right? Just because this is typically where we've seen tops doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to see in the future, because there has to be something that goes wrong, right? It's not like we're just sitting here and then everyone decides to sell at the same time and we go down 70% no matter what, even if the economy is doing well, even if stocks are at all-time highs, even if the market looks good. Keep in mind, last cycle that we went into a bear market, we were like, every asset was going into a bear market. This was the end of free money. This is the rate hike cycle. We saw the NASDAQ fall down 30-something% in a very short period of time. We're not seeing that right now. And of course that could happen, right? But I think what's more likely is we get a lot of retail investors shaken out, and some have already left, right? We scare a lot of retail investors, and then we go up to all-time highs. They buy back in at all-time highs, and then eventually we dump at some point. But it doesn't seem that euphoric. This was obviously manipulation. We had the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 fall like 2% or something a week from Friday or a week before Friday. And yet Bitcoin was falling 20%. We saw alts fall down 60-70%. And that's where a lot of these like crazy views happen, where people are like making these crash videos because people were interested why crypto's falling down so quick. But what I think the lie is that there are just so many people that are just blindly bearish now that we're falling down a bit. However, like I said, a lot of things still point to Bitcoin doing quite well moving forward. Here are 5 macro catalysts that are structurally bullish for Bitcoin's price, even when they're not directly about Bitcoin itself. Monetary policy easing. So we have rate cuts, quantitative easing, or liquidity injections. We're already seeing this right now. We're in the middle of a rate cut cycle. We just started. And quantitative easing will start soon. Quantitative tightening, it was just announced, is going to be ending. So Bitcoin's hard money narrative thrives in loose monetary policies or loose monetary environments. Fiscal expansion and rising sovereign debt levels. High government deficits financed through debt issuance or money printing reduce confidence in the fiat sustainability. We just have been seeing that, well, not even just, we've been seeing that consistently from every country. It seems like US, $37 trillion in debt. Debt to GDP continues to climb. Of course, the government's going to try to, grow out of the debt with a 4% GDP. That's possible if they continue to do that year after year. Institutional portfolio rebalancing, the digital gold allocation trend. So basically just more funds diversifying into Bitcoin, which we've seen. There's still a lot of entities that are talking about opening, Bitcoin trading in 2026. A lot of the big banks have announced that recently. That's going to continue, right? There's so many entities that still won't allow their clients to buy Bitcoin. Geopolitical instability or de-dollarization. De-dollarization has been happening consistently for the last couple of years. You can see gold hitting new all-time highs. Why do you think that is? It's because people are moving away from the dollar. You don't get a 56% increase. Was that a $12 trillion increase in the last year to gold's market cap? You don't get this because there are a couple retail investors and a couple hedge funds buying. No, this is central banks changing their money, changing their reserves. They're de-dollarizing. AI, energy, and infrastructure capital expansion. The global boom of AI infrastructure is driving enormous demand for cheap, stranded, or flexible energy sources, so Bitcoin mining can monetize energy inefficiencies and provide load balancing to grids. That's happening more than ever. So all these things are very bullish catalysts, and all of them are happening for Bitcoin right now. Just because it's the fourth quarter doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin's got to go down in price. But of course, if you are uncomfortable right now with how much you have in crypto, like, we could go into a bear market. So be ready for that. I am comfortable if we go into a bear market because I'm very heavy on Bitcoin versus other assets in crypto. Right? I think Bitcoin's going to be here in 4 years. Even if we go into a bear market, I think Bitcoin will be at all-time highs once again. So I'm willing to hold on to it. But if you're someone that's extremely over leveraged, or you have a ton of altcoins and yeah, you feel like you need to trim some, yeah, you might want to take a little bit off the table when you can, right? We've been able to take profits the entire bull run on long positions. I still have a lot of long positions open right now because I think we're heading higher, but that's how I like to take a more aggressive stance. I don't really like buying a lot of smaller cap altcoins anymore. I think just in general, there's going to be more of a concentration in the top altcoins and less people will care about the 100th largest crypto. Of course, there will be an altcoin season most likely at some point, but I would rather be long on Bitcoin 2x than, invest in some smaller altcoin that's probably going to go away and is worthless. So if you want to start doing that, if you want to trade, you can check out BYDeFi underneath the video. You can also check out some of the other exchanges like BTCC, BTCC, WEEX, BLOFIN. I like all those exchanges. I use all the exchanges to try to test out which ones I like the most. Right now, I really like BYDeFi, and they have these great promotions. And in our Telegram group too, we have someone from BYDeFi. So if you have questions, concerns. Now, in case you are curious what's happening in the market this weekend, like I said, the market is moving up a bit. You can see Bitcoin hitting $109,000, a little bit more than that now. So we're seeing a bit of a relief. We're seeing a bit of a rally. Again, some of that might be due to Trump. Keep in mind, we do have CPI coming out on Friday, which is the first Friday release of CPI since 2018. Kind of interesting. They said that this is going to be, from what I heard, the last release throughout the shutdown. So like if the shutdown goes for another 60 days, maybe they change it, but sounds like we're not going to see any more news on CPI. The Fed's already indicated that, growth is better than they expected. They were really dovish recently. Jerome Powell was really dovish, and in a week and a half, we're going to see the next Fed rate decision. Looks like it's going to be a 25 basis point cut, maybe for the next two meetings, which hopefully, if inflation stays down, hopefully that indicates that to the bond market that we're actually going to see lowering rates, in which case like 30-year mortgages would come down. That would be really good for the economy if people could move again and not go from a 3% mortgage to 7%. Even if it was just 3 to 5%, I think a lot of people would start moving again. So that'll be really interesting to watch. Of course, we'll have to watch the ETF flows as well. It was kind of a mixed week this last week, but largely red for the ETFs. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that shakes out, what happens with China and trade relations and all that. But we also start to get earnings. I mean, last week was the bank earnings. We see more earnings this week. Let's see if I can pull up some of the big earnings this week. So this week we start to see some of the tech companies. We have Netflix on Tuesday, Coca-Cola Tuesday as well, Capital One, 3M, GM, the NASDAQ. Then on Wednesday, after close, we have Tesla, IBM. Those are the big earnings then. And then Thursday, we have Intel, Ford. And yeah, this is kind of the week before the big tech earnings, but still people will be paying attention to Netflix and Tesla, and some of these are decent indicators for the overall economy too. So it'll be interesting to watch. Let me know your thoughts on all this underneath the video. I really do appreciate you watching. Let me know, what do you think about the market right now? Right? Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Let me know down below in the comment section. See you soon.